My friends, when I say Bob James, some people know who that is. But if I play like one of his well-sampled tracks, if I play like Nautilus or Take Me to the Mardi Gras,
you should know how to work that.
and it has that a-go-go bell, which I learned from him, that everyone knows because it's been sampled by Run DMC and NWA and A$AP Rocky and literally everyone. And I play that for them and they're like, oh yeah, of course I know that. And I'm like, okay, that's Bob James.
I had gone to the same school, University of Michigan, where he had been in school. I wanted to audition myself where I would be the one on the outside as an 80-year-old trying to get into a jam session with a 20-year-old. And what would it be like to try to go into their world? And yes, I'm too old, and yes, whatever, but maybe if I give you all my energy and maybe hopefully give you a little benefit from my experience, what I want from you is your fresh, daring, adventurous, life is in front of you feeling.
Bob, we've been listening to some Dixieland. Jazz has come a long way since then, hasn't it?
Yes, it's changed quite radically, I think. Our music, we try to keep the same spirit that Dixieland had and the same energy, but we try to keep pace with contemporary techniques in other forms of music.
He just hired me a few times to like install some new gear in his studio, so it was not like collaborative in any way.
But one thing led to another, and he started playing me some of his house DJ music, and I was very intrigued, and we started to experiment.
He wanted to know what other possibilities there were, and so I guess I was one of the people that explored some of those possibilities with him.
Having been a fan of the George Orwell book, 1984, I decided that it would be fun for us to have the title 2080. Him being 20, me being 80, but it also had this idea of what will music be like in the year 2080, 60 years from now into the future. For me to have anticipated that back in 1960, when I was his age, I don't think I would have anticipated the way the music is now, but it's fun to speculate.
Computerization was like an event in his life, and like he started and transitioned to using computers to make music, whereas that's just like a thing that I do. I was like, we need to learn this like new set of tools in order to make music together, and he like did it, like read the manual and was like working really hard to learn Ableton. Like, it's funny because learning a new software, especially after he's been using one for a decade, is like a big deal, but he was just willing to learn and try this new thing out. And I think like that actually says a lot about how youthful he is. That's been inspiring to me. It's like, well, if he can learn a new software when he's 80 at the whim of a 20-year-old who's like, Ableton's better, then I can work a couple extra hours on something that matters to me.
After having witnessed the radical changes that have taken place in the 20th century, it would be quite impossible to really predict accurately what's going to happen in the future. But I think that we can be sure that composers and performers are going to have to find ways of eliminating the conventional rules and setting up their own new rules in order to make their sounds and their music original.